Good morning to you all and welcome to this session. I'm so glad to see a growing number of people who have a heart for prayer for the church around the world. So it's wonderful to have you all here. It's a great privilege and honor to introduce two dear friends that every time when I meet them, I learn so much about the perseverance of the saints, given the contexts where they work. So I will first introduce Pastor Karen Campbell, who is a Presbyterian pastor in Ireland. She's also the convener of the worship panel in Ireland. And my other friend is Pastor Eric Sarwar, who's a Pakistani Presbyterian pastor, also the founder and director of a school for worship and music in Pakistan, in Karachi. So pleased to have them both here, so eager to say much more about them, but because we only have an hour, I really shouldn't. So I will let them introduce themselves further if they would like to, or just get straight into their presentation. The way the next hour will go is that Karen will speak first for about 20 minutes, then Eric will speak for another 20 minutes, and then we will have about 10 to 15 minutes of discussion and question time at the end. Yes? Wonderful. Karen, please.
Good morning. So glad to be with you this morning and to share with you some thoughts from Ireland. I must confess I do feel a little rebuked standing here. Emily Brink got in touch with me a few months ago saying, Karen, will you help do a seminar? What would you like to speak on? I said, of course, Emily, and I gave a few suggestions. And Emily came back and said, none of those, what about prayer? And I thought, well, I don't think Ireland needs our prayers at this time. What are we to say from Ireland? And I must say, I feel very rebuked in my spirit. Last night, the news from Ireland was that there was more riots in Belfast. And sometimes when you live in a country, you forget the need. And it's just a real privilege to be here and to remind myself as much as you folk of the importance that prayer can make. Eric, I see in your computer we need a password. Do you want to type it in so that I can unlock your computer and then we'll get to it? So my brief really in this seminar is to share a little bit about my own experience living in Ireland, the context, and what God is doing through prayer, just to inspire you that there are good things happening in times of turbulence. So first of all, I want you to take a look at this picture. It'll be up here in a second.
Which one?
First one. Yeah.
You can just scroll down from
Great. This is a bog. Do we know what a bog is in Ireland? Peat. Yeah, where you dig out the peat and you put it on the fires. A lot of bogs in Ireland, very wet ground. And if you look at the bottom picture, you see some writing. Yeah. This is actually a Psalter, a book of Psalms that was found and discovered in 2006 in County Tipperary. Farmer digging up turf, and he found this book of Psalms, which dates way back to AD 600, one of the earliest finds of scripture in Ireland. And the reason why finds like this are important is because they show our heritage in the Christian faith in Ireland. I'm sure you all know the story of St. Patrick, how he came in the 5th century as a slave. But why this particular fragment is important is that it reminds us that the Psalter was recited daily in the spirituality, in the Celtic spirituality. The Psalter was recited all 150 Psalms in one day, and there was this rhythm of prayer and rhythm of reciting scripture that goes way deep into our Irish culture. And really it is down to this one man, St. Patrick, who came first of all as a slave, but later on he set up monastic communities. And St. Patrick, in terms of his praying, I just want to read an excerpt from his Confessions. It says this: Patrick reports, "After I had arrived in Ireland, I found myself pasturing flocks daily. I prayed a number of times each day, and more the love and fear of God came to me, and faith grew, and my spirit was exercised until I was praying up to 100 times every day, in the night as well, nearly as often." And you can see some of the change that Patrick underwent as he lived in Ireland. Started with a little prayer, but then very soon he cultivated this rhythm of spirituality where he was praying all the time. And these monastic communities that Patrick set up, they taught each other how to pray. And some of the distinctive features that made kind of Ireland set apart from what was going on in mainland Europe, there was this rhythm of prayer, very continuous, but also praying for every situation. If you look at Patrick's Confessions, there's prayers before a meal, prayers for milking cows, prayers for your toothache, prayers for a new baby, prayers for a new baby chick, prayers for absolutely everything. But it was in the laity. It wasn't the priest that did the prayers, it was the community. And that's important as we reflect later on prayer life in Ireland. Strong images as well, but always rooted in reality. It wasn't kind of take me away from Ireland and from this situation, but images that helped them pray in reality. I'm sure you know St. Patrick's breastplate. You've heard of it. I bind unto myself today the strong name of the Trinity. In other words, Patrick was praying, Lord, come and hook yourself upon me so that I'm aware of your presence all through the day. So that's the kind of context of Ireland, of our roots and our traditions. But today it's very different. And prayer has changed. The prayer life in Ireland has changed. As you know, there's this ugly marriage between religion and politics, where some politicians bring our religion right into the political sphere. And as a result of that, a lot of ministers like myself get scared and we shrink back from praying for our nation. And a lot of us have turned the gospel into personal salvation, asking Jesus into my heart, not my community's life, but into my heart. And we've narrowed the gospel in our prayers. And my context of growing up, typically prayers were to do with praying for the minister in church and intercessory prayers, praying for missionaries, and anyone really who was doing Christian work. But we didn't pray much for Ireland. We didn't pray much for politics. Those were all very taboo subjects when I was growing up. And we shrunk the gospel into a very narrow idea of what praying life should be about. Also, the typical prayer meeting growing up would have been the minister, the elder who was that prayer warrior, the intercessor, and maybe a couple of other elders. And their prayers were very elegant. They were very deeply rooted in Scripture. If you came as an outsider into those prayer meetings, you were scared. You know, and what I used to do was rehearse the prayer at home before you came in, and you had all these things in your head that you were going to say, and then maybe the person sitting beside you already prayed all those things, and you think, well, what am I going to do now? Because my neighbour has already prayed, and there was that fear of praying in public, you know. And prayer, growing up for me, was very much a prayer meeting. And it was quite isolated from this Patrick idea of community, of praying in public, of doing it together and praying for every situation. It was for the spiritual elite in church. I just want to give you a taste of my own context where I grew up. I grew up in a place called Lurgan. Belfast is capital city of Northern Ireland. Lurgan is in County Armagh. What marks Lurgan? It's never good. It's a 50-50 town, 50% Roman Catholic and 50% Protestant. Halfway through the street, you would go this far and no further because you knew you were entering the other side, the other end. There was always 2 butchers, 2 shops of everything, 2 bakeries, one for the Catholics, one for the Protestants. Economically, it's great to have this kind of trade, but in terms of reconciliation, it's not so great to have such a great divide. So these were the kind of scenes I would have been very used to in Lurgan. Bombs. Our town was bombed twice when I was a child. Every Friday night there were riots. That was just the way it was. We thought no different. This is how people live. Balaclavas, men in balaclavas. The town would have shut down. There would have been barriers so that you couldn't have got through on a Friday night or indeed a Saturday night. Very heavy police presence and army presence. Going into shops, you would have had your bags checked, your coats, what's in your pockets. Army was everywhere in Lurgan. My father was involved in local politics, so there was death threats put on his head, and we didn't know anything about this at the time. Our parents protected us quite a bit from the reality of living in Lurgan. But I want to share a funny story. I only heard this story a few years ago when it came out years later. But the police would often call our family home and say, "Mr. Williams, don't take your children to school today. Let your wife do it." I'm not sure about whether that was a good thing to say. Let your wife go into danger. But that would have been a typical phone call. And there was one day, Mum was driving us to school, and the backstory was my dad was a teacher. And there was a student who did kind of a second job in selling shoes, and my dad loved a certain type of label called Barker's shoes, very expensive. And this student had promised to give him a pair of Barker's shoes at a knockdown price. So that was the backstory, but my mum was driving us to school and stopped at traffic lights, and she saw in the distance this man walking towards her with a shoebox. And immediately my mum thought, uh-oh, trouble, bomb. And he was smiling, he was pointing to the box, saying, you know, there's something in here for you. But my mum was freaking out and didn't know what to do. And I said, "Mum," later on, "what did you do?" And she said, "Well, this is the funny bit. I rolled up the windows and I went, shoo, shoo, shoo." As if that was going to stop a bomber in Lurgan, but she went home, told my dad, and he explained it wasn't a bomb. There was Barker's shoes in that shoebox. But that's the context of Ireland, Northern Ireland in the 80s of my childhood. The peace agreement happened. The other thing I should say about Lurgan, it was part of the murder triangle. Bleary, Portadown, Lurgan, a little triangle where a lot of murders happened, and there's lots of murder triangles in Northern Ireland. Peace process happened in the 90s, the Good Friday Agreement, where the Irish and British governments worked together to establish ground rules for how Northern Ireland Assembly should function as a local government. The peace agreement was signed on Good Friday, 1998, but we always knew it was a fragile peace, especially interfaith areas like Lurgan or North Belfast, where Catholics would be living right beside Protestants. We've Liz Hughes here, who's another Presbyterian minister. Liz works in one of the interfaith areas still in Whitehouse. And 2002, Liz, her church was burned down right to the ground. You can talk to Liz about her experience of living through that, but that was post the peace agreement, so there were still problems. It was a fragile peace. On the surface, everything looked good, but deep below, there's always been those challenges. I'm going to move on. that's a quick history of 70s, 80s, 90s. I'm going to move right on to just over a year ago. Something quite significant happened, and we're still living in the wake of this. Very simple situation. We have a lot of issues with flags. Should we fly the British flag, which is the Union Jack? Should we fly the Irish flag? Should we fly the Ulster flag, which represents Northern Ireland? And that creates a lot of tension. Belfast City Hall had been flying the Union Jack, and the Alliance Party, one of the political parties, said, let's just put it down for a while, not thinking of any major ramifications. So the moment the Union Jack was put down in the City Hall, riots just started. One riot after another, particularly in Belfast. But a whole new dimension has emerged of how protests work. Facebook, Twitter are used a lot to get word out. And a typical scenario just over a year ago would be something like, let's have a protest. And that's communicated through Twitter or Facebook. And you'd be driving home on a Friday night, just trying to get back home from your work. And every town around you would have youths with their Union Jacks standing in the middle of the road, and they wouldn't let you past. And there would be lockdown for about 10 minutes, and that was their way of protesting. And you would face that, and you couldn't get through. One time I had an urgent appointment visiting someone who was dying in hospital. I tried to say, please let me through, just nothing. And that's been going on for the last year and a half. And the Land Rovers came back, very strong army presence again, particularly again in Belfast. And this is now a common scene, sadly, in our country, particularly in the capital city, a lot of more Land Rovers. Moving on to a year on, in December 2013, an American diplomat, Richard Haas, came over to try and help us sort this out. We really weren't getting anywhere on our own, so we brought in Richard Haas, and all these politicians represent all the different political parties in Northern Ireland, and they were brought round a table to try and reach agreement. Talks went on. The deadline was Christmas. It went on past Christmas, and they didn't reach an agreement. The talks failed, and that's currently where we're at. And the sad story coming from last night, some of our Presbyterian ministers were organising a festival in Belfast, and they asked someone called, is it Patrick McGee, Liz? Patrick McGee and Joe Berry. Patrick McGee was an IRA bomber who planted the Brighton bomb in '84, which is over 30 years ago this year. So it's a long time ago. But Joe Berry's dad died in that bomb, and she was willing to come on stage, meet Patrick McGee, and talk about forgiveness. And the Presbyterian ministers had facilitated this as a way of demonstrating forgiveness and the power of forgiveness. It happened in East Belfast, which is a Protestant community. And what did our people do? They couldn't cope with the fact that there was an IRA bomber in their community, so they threw bricks at the community centre where it was happening. And for us, that's just so sad. You know, we're trying to move on. We're trying to talk about forgiveness. And there was someone who was willing to meet her father's killer face to face and talk very openly. And yet the people in the streets just couldn't cope with it. And the sad news this morning is that, again, Land Rovers had to escort people out of the building. And Jo Berry herself said, "This is worse than my recent trip to Beirut," you know, her own country, where she's trying to move on. So we do need prayer. That's the current situation. But in terms of what is going on that's positive, this is a scene that happened December 2012. Again, through Twitter, someone had the idea, let's get as many people as possible to pray. This is the City Hall in Belfast where the trouble started. And a couple of things that mark this out as significant. It was silent prayer, so that no one was offending anybody else. They just stood in silence and prayed for our country. The other thing was it was early in the morning. They didn't want to disrupt. They wanted a very peaceful prayer time. So they did it at 8 in the morning before any shops opened. But this moment of prayer, it's interesting how something so public and visible that started just someone on the phone, and it gathered momentum. And it's interesting what has happened since. Since that time of prayer, just over a year ago, there's been a lot of prayer rooms that have started all over the country. In 2012, there were 250 prayer rooms in Ireland. In 2014, January this year, another 36 prayer rooms. And it's a very simple idea, just having a place of prayer in your church or in your community. And it takes you back to St. Patrick. It's enabling the laity to have a safe place to pray again, more accessible. It creates ownership. You know, if you know that there's someone praying the hour before you and it's your slot, you have to turn up. You can't just say, will I go or want to go. It creates ownership that you will be there. And it's putting the ordinary saints back into circulation again. There's a lovely story from Churchill. During the darkest hours of World War II, they were running out of ammunition and silver, and Churchill asked his people, where will we get more silver for the war? And they replied, well, there's saints in the churches, silver saints. Why don't we use those? And Churchill simply replied, well, it's time to put the saints back into circulation again. And I do think a lot of that's happening in Ireland. The saints are getting back into circulation. Ordinary people who are praying the Lord's Prayer. So that's one thing. Another thing that's happening is we're praying more for public events. There was a 96 hours of continuous prayer in Enniskillen for the G8 summit, and we've had similar events like that. I'll just move through these quickly because I know it's Eric's time. Another significant one is prayer in schools. We're not as privileged as America in having Christian schools. They're all secular. But we're privileged in that we're still free to have Christian organisations inside our schools, which is different from mainland, and particularly in England, where even Church of England schools can't perform nativity plays because it's too Christian. So we're in a real privileged situation that we can set up prayer rooms. And there's been a 58% growth in the past year of prayer spaces in schools. And we really give thanks for that, because that's an open door to pray right into the heart of our community. Another thing that's happened is some presbyteries and parishes are having months of unbroken prayer. This is down in Dromore Diocese, 2014. They've committed to having a whole year of unbroken prayer. And this was starting on New Year's Eve in a place called the Titanic Quarter, something we're really proud of, that we were able to build a ship that sank. Irish have a warped sense of humour, so we do. But that's where it started, on the docks, where there is a prayer room. What else? Another interesting thing that we do in terms of intercession, and then I'll maybe stop here and let Eric take over, is prayer walking, where local churches come together. And just an interesting story of our own context, just outside Ballyclare, where I'm a minister now. We would have had a lot of problems in our village in Doak with paramilitaries, and they would try and control the village, and the more decent people would try and have an input, and there was always that friction. A few years ago, prayer walks were started around Easter time, where visibly the churches gathered together and walked all the way around the village and prayed, carrying the cross. Interestingly, since praying and doing those prayer walks, Doak has been able to form one community group with all, as an umbrella of all the different organizations. So the paramilitary groups are sitting with the good people, the good Christian people, and trying to work together. And there has been a movement of healing and reconciliation, and the local clergy put it down to the prayer walk and having that visible covering of prayer in the area. Those are just some of the exciting ways in which prayer is changing and giving birth to new rhythms and new patterns of what's happening in Ireland. It's centred around rhythms of prayer. It's bringing it into the public space, praying around symbols like the cross or things that are in the prayer room that help ordinary people to pray. We'll just sing this song. Anne asked to share a song. We'll maybe sing 1, 2, and 4. It's to the tune Sally Gardens. Do you know Sally Gardens? So just sing it as a prayer over Ireland, and then it's over to you, Eric.
Good afternoon. Oh, is it good afternoon or good morning still? Well, easy salam to all of you from Pakistan. That's fine. Thank you very much, Karen, bringing us a preview about Ireland. And I had been chanced twicely to visit Karen in Northern Ireland and share our work over there. So let's come to from England to the Southeast Asian country. How can we learn and share to praying for Pakistan, and how can a Pakistani church can pray for the North American church? It's really interesting. It's a symposium have focused this year on this intercessory prayer ministry, and especially lifting up the other nations into prayers. It's a really privilege to speak in front of all of you, because many are called, but few are chosen to be in this seminar. So, thank you very much for attending and your interest. Well, intercessor prayer ministry, and especially for regarding Pakistan, I would like directly go to the Pakistan geographical importance in Southeast Asia. Pakistan is somehow very popular in news few years back after 9/11 as the major planner OBL Osama bin Laden has been captured from Pakistan, Abbottabad. And the other key leaders of the Al-Qaeda and the Taliban Tehreek, they are a hot belt in Pakistan. So you can see that we are sharing our border with four major and main critical countries in that region. We are sharing our border with Afghanistan, with Iran, with India, and with China. So geopolitically, politically, our country is very important. Strategically, it's a eyeball in the worldwide politics. This is the flag. Pakistan came into being in 1947 after 200 years of colonial rule by British. And till that moment, it has been founded on the name of Islam and the two theory of the two different religion. But it's turned to be a welfare state, but till our generation, after post-Afghanistan war, from last 3 decades, it has been a place of a terrorism, a hotbed for the Talibanization, and all the Islamic fanatics, they are living in that region under the umbrella of other Islamic states, those who are supporting and funding Pakistan for all these kind of issues. So I directly go to the current issues which we are facing as a nation and as a church. Number one, the most important is increasing violence against minorities and especially Christians. Here I have a report. You can take a fact sheet, or I can send you email. This is a fact sheet about Pakistan, a history of violence, and this fact sheet has been published by the U.S. Commission on International Religious Freedom. This is national and the official document about Pakistan. So there are horrible and very. You can say that the points are here are in only 1 year. This is the report of from 2012 till 2013. 20 million Christians are living in Pakistan. This is the total population of Pakistan is more than 20 million, more than 180 and 190. Yes, 190 millions, more than that. 180% are Muslims. We are only 2%. The Christians aren't only 2%. So in this majority people, you can say the majority of Pakistan Christians belong to the lowest socio-economic class because of the missionary work, or you can say that 100 years back when the missionary work started in the low-cost people. So this is just the present situation. This report has placed Pakistan top of a list of 198 countries most suffering from social hostilities involving religion by the end of 2012. This is the latest. top the first foremost religious hostilities while showing a very high range of scores on the other index too. The results show that Pakistan had the highest level of social hostility involving religion, and Egypt had and highest level of government restriction on religion. Somehow the state of Pakistan is very weak. The elements, the Islamic terrorist organization and the Talibanization, these are more powerful than the state. I will show you at the end. This is the one cartoons which represent the minority situation in Pakistan. That how Islamic fanatical and fundamentalists, how they treat minorities in that region. History of violence, I have just put some facts over there. So you can see that US Commission of International Religions, and from January till 203 incidents of sectarian violence, 100,800 casualties and 700 deaths, 203 incidents of sectarian violence, 37, this is the only 1 year report, 37 attacks on Christians, 11 killed and 36 injured, 3 shot dead by target and 5 girls raped. This is the normal, these are those who has been reported. There are lots of incidents which has been not registered and reported. The social discrimination on every stage. You can see that the person on the right side, murderer, is their hero. He's the person, he's the government official, security guard of the governor of Punjab, assassinated by this person. He assigned his duty specially to kill that person. Why? I will show you a case study why that governor of that state has been killed by his own security guard and he became a hero of the nation. And another case came out of a young girl who has been accused, 11-year young girls accused by the right person, real blasphemer, who planned all things, and he just nominated the young girl. And he has been put to in a prison under the situation. But the last year was horrible especially for the Christian community and the churches. Last year, there on 22nd October, more than 180 martyred and 100 injured in Peshawar church attacked by Taliban. I'll show you some video clips on the same night when the same morning, Sunday morning, it has been happened in a Sunday service. And we produced one song, and that was written and sung by my team. I have written and composed that song, and we distributed to the social media and onto the local TV channels, and they have just played. So I'll just give you one glimpse. Same night we produced this song in our studio.
नौजवान भी थक जाएंगे और मांदा होंगे और सूरमा बिल्कुल गिर पड़ेंगे, लेकिन खुदावंद का इंतजार करने वाले असर नौ जोर हासिल करेंगे। वो काबों की माने नए बालों पर से उड़ेंगे।
वो है उनकी पनाह
horrible attack. So we encouraged our nation and the community through our songs and through our prayers that how can we stand with them. But another incident happened that was again in March 9, 2013. So last year was a bloody year for the Christians in Pakistan actually. 4,000 religious zealots, they attack on one single colony and they burned the whole colony because one person has been accused of the blasphemy. A single person accused and they burned the whole 200 houses of that colony. Even that was not a true fall. That was a false accusation. So this is the TV clip report which I have just posted. Mob burns 100 Christian houses in Lahore over alleged blasphemy. So the sentiments and the problems they are very crucial over there. This is the lady actually, Asiya Bibi, her name is, sentenced to death because the story is very terrible actually. Christian woman got into an argument with some Muslim woman over a cup of water. Heated words were exchanged, a complaint of blasphemy was lodged against her and she was arrested, tried and sentenced to death. Still, she remains in prison. And the governor of the Punjab, who has a press conference on behalf of that lady, only on the press conference that governor has been killed by his own security guard. This is the young girl, 14 years old, Rimsha Masih, 295B. This is the blasphemy law in Pakistan against the burning the pages of Quran, or if you say something about the prophet, that is C. So these two are very terrible blasphemy laws. This young girl in 2012 faced the death penalty against the blasphemy law for illegally discrediting the pages of Quran or a book containing verses from the Quran by burning. Praise God, her family has been refuged and got asylum in Canada. They are safe now. So lots of things are they are emerging over there. So what's my role is as an activist for the repeal of blasphemy on various forums, and also through music and spirituality. We are trying to connect with the Muslim leaders and the Sufi shrines. Those are moderate Muslims, and they have a soft corner and they're peaceful people in these people, but it's a terrible that these Sufi shrines are now targeted by if anybody pilgrim go to this Sufi shrine and they want to do a prayer over there, they have been killed also. So all this, they are just turning this state into a sectarian state. So this is my efforts with to visiting Sufi shrines and connecting with the leaders of the majority Muslim people for the peace building and for the reconciliation, or you can say that some kind of interfaith harmony. So these are the efforts which I'm trying to do, and it's flourishing actually. The prayer concerns which I would like to share with you. It's interesting. Somebody put this cartoon that Islam is a religion of peace. See, no one talkbacks. So. Such kind of, you can say that expressions, they are regularly now appearing on a paper and a free media now, those who are expressing them. So what are the prayer concerns which you can pray specifically for the Pakistan is that lack of Christian leadership in Pakistan. Out of fear or out of visionless, I don't know. But we need a strong prayer for the strong leaders who stand on the behalf of their nation. Unity of religious and political leaders, because we don't have any political voice. Only mainstream political Muslim parties can hand-pick any Christian leader, and he speak the language of their party, not on the behalf of the community. Social, racial, and religious discrimination, repeal or amendment in blasphemy law. So this is one of active movement which I'm involved. Extremist and religious terrorist organizations, that's the point actually which I have raised. I have put my sticker on my car that is, love your neighbors and pray for your enemies. So sometimes lots of people pass me and they look at me at who's inside the car, who has put this sticker on the behind the back screen of the car. So this is our pray for the extremist and religious terrorist organization also. Although they are killing, they are hurting, they are murdering the people, but still we need to pray for them. Sectarian killing and religious violence, marginalization, and especially for a Christian community, the only hope for the Christian is the church, and if they got education, that's a development of educational and skilled institutions for Christians. You might got this one-page news. This is the current news from I just received a link from my friend today morning. So I just got this page out. So you can pray for that. But now the recent, what I would like to challenge you is that government has started at last negotiation with the Taliban after a loss of 50,000 humans. The peace talk has started at last. So that's a phrase which I used today morning in this plenary session. In China, killing one panda is a death penalty. And in Pakistan, 50,000 people, innocent people, murdered or suffered, but government and state is trying to negotiate and trying to do a peace dialogue. So this is the current situation in Pakistan. Actually, that's the reason. Actually, Pakistan nation and the people, they have a only hope that the church or their other minorities, they are the non-Christians also. They can only raise their voices in front of their through their religious leaders or organizations. So in Pakistan, we also have some exercises which we do, and the other churches also do. That is, we have a national day of call. We try to engage and invite other minorities to have a prayer meeting with us on a day of Independence Day. That's the 14th August. So we all try to all together and pray. And then we have a 10 days of prayer meetings also. That's Jesus Ascension till Pentecost. We invite and challenge people to join with us in a 24/7 prayer chain as well. And also there is another 40 days of prayer actually, when it's from Easter till the Pentecost. So these are the movements which has been in Pakistan. And one other thing is we have a connection through mobile service. We have a all Christians network through mobile. So we challenge people to through SMS messages and text messages that for what purpose and for when and where they can pray for any incident which arose in the city or the country. So this is the situation in Pakistan, and I would like to encourage you and challenge you in your congregational prayer, in your intercedings. Lift this nation. This is a very important nation. The Pakistan, geographically, it is a gateway to the Southeast Asia and to reach out these regions. Once God's Spirit opened the door, once the church has been strengthened over there, the mission work will sweep out the neighboring countries. So the much prayer at this critical time we needed from the global community of the faith, that they may join us and they support us through their prayers and lift us up. Even for the coming generation, those who are facing lots of questions on their faith on regular basis everywhere. May God bless all of you. Thank you.
We have about 10 minutes. If you have any questions or comments or words of blessing that you want to share with our speakers today, and I will try to remind you when it's about 2 minutes when we have to stop, okay?
Somehow, because the political tension between two nations and the history of the hostility in 2 wars between India and Pakistan. So there are through media and through film industry and through cultural exchange and through the cricket diplomacy. So there are certain windows which could be happen. Yeah, there's a chance actually. The name is the Islamic Republic of Pakistan, but by the state law, we are free to go to churches, free to do whatever in style, wherever we want to worship. But as I have told, because of this blasphemy law, this has been introduced in 1980s by the dictator and the military government. As I have told you, state law is not banned us, but the sectarians and the extremist organizations are so powerful and funded by the foreign countries, other Islamic countries, so they are more powerful than the state. So state is silence in front of them.
I need to think.
Okay. Well, there are lots of ways. Number one is you can't convert any person. It's a death penalty. You can't baptize any non-Christian. That's against, there's a law in Pakistan, but you can share a gospel. This is a 101 because living in a 98% Christian, Muslim society, we have a very good friendship with on a work base, on a neighboring base, and living in that part of the region. So we can share lots of things, not even by through talks and through some books or some media like a Passion of Christ movie came out. You can share, watch this Hollywood movie, and some others like this. But as I have told, through our connection with the Sufi shrines, so this is another way which through music and performing art, we can also connect with not evangelism like a traditional evangelism, but at last we have a chance to share about our faith in a friendly way, in a dialogue style. So can't convert anybody.
I think for Ireland, the style of evangelism has changed significantly. The traditional mode was a preacher on the street corner with the tracts and saying, "You'll burn if you don't turn." Turn or burn was a phrase that people react to, and they react to a certain style of preaching. And a key phrase that our church has picked up on is building bridges into the community. And you will see a lot of local ministers being involved with community groups, community forums, people who are doing a lot of good work in the community, but not for faith reasons, and developing a posture that's very humble. How can we as a church help? And very much that style rather than top down, you need to come into our churches. And that's the way. Building the trust in communities is very key, and that's not necessarily overt evangelism, but it's building those relationships so that gently we can bring the gospel truth into those places.
Is that appealing to young people particularly?
I think there's a real hunger in young people, and there's a hunger generally in Ireland. It's out there. Not necessarily to come into church and to the traditional form of worship, but there's a real hunger for spirituality with young people, and it's making those connections are really key. The hunger's there, but maybe not in the traditional way that we see evangelism or mission. But if you scratch the surface, there's a real passion for reaching some kind of God in Ireland. Yeah. Yes? Yeah, 24/7 Prayer Ireland is a great way to hear what's going on in terms of prayer in Ireland. James and Liz, you help me if there's other ways. The Presbyterian Church in Ireland has weekly prayer that tells you what's happening in churches. If you go to Mission Ireland typepad, you will get that weekly update. So those are the two. Is there any you can think of? Those are the two key ones, 24/7 Prayer Ireland, which has a real heart for prayer and transformation through prayer, and then the Mission Ireland website.
Actually, Pakistan, somehow 70% people are living in a oriental and a rural and illiterate, so not a very much fond of the high-tech kind of things. But through this symposium and through this session and preparing, it just got in my mind I should start a page on a Facebook page for Intercessor Prayer Ministry for Pakistan. so I'm going to start.
Can you describe the connections and relationships between Pakistan Christians and Christians in the United States? Is it by denomination or by agency or by congregation?
Yeah, it's an interesting question, yeah. As I have told that Pakistan has, the region of India has been under the 200 years British colonial. So that's why the first missionaries, those who came from North America, that was Presbyterians. So the Presbyterian church in Pakistan is 150 years old. And then they already established schools and technical institutions and theological seminary where I have been graduated. That's all Presbyterians, and the churches also there. Then there is also ARP, Associate Reformed Presbyterian churches from North America, also there. Then the Baptist churches there, and then few Pentecostal movements are also there in Pakistan. So inside the, although we are 2%, but the close community, but lots of connection with the Assemblies of God is there, the Pentecostal movements and the Reformed Presbyterians. So there are a link from North America to Pakistan through institution and through seminaries and through churches as well.